So I will be sharing my experience about the current concepts of cancer prostate in general, imaging of prostate as well. So Dr. Desai has made my task little more elaborate because I thought he will be covering everything about when MR should be done in a prostatic setting where you need to evaluate the prostate gland. So, however, so it's a very common disease, as we know that there is at least large population who is harboring a cancer. So at least 30 to 46% of men over 50 years of age will have a cancer, and maybe up to 80 to 90% over the age of 80 years. But then they don't behave in a predictable fashion. Some of them can be very aggressive, but most of the times they will be very indolent, benign kind of disease, which will last a lifelong time without manifesting clinically. So the questions are about how to screen the general population, what to choose as a diagnostic evaluation, and what are the impact on treatment options. So usually what we do is when we have suspicion of prostate cancer, that is PSA, which is more than 4 nanogram, or digital rectal examination is positive, then we do a trust-guided biopsy, and we find a positive biopsy, we go for organ-confined disease versus a non-organ confined disease. And if a negative biopsy, we just follow up the patient. Now, if an organ-confined disease is there, now there has to be some modality which is going to confirm this. Usually that will be, imaging-wise a confirmation of this, and for deciding whether it is a non-organ confined disease, that's important, because then whether to go for surgical treatment or go for medical treatment are the issues which are involved here. So obviously we have CT scan, which really does not help us in picking up early disease, neither for early showing the staging of the disease in the very early stage. Ultrasound is obviously good, but it's mostly used for trust-guided biopsies, but its role for detecting cancers varies from somewhere around 40% to as high as 70%, so it's not very dependable examination that way. But MRI obviously has an advantage here, because it really gives you very good soft tissue characterization and multiplanar capability, which make it actually show the zonal anatomy very well, and it will really help us in detecting the pathology. Then staging of cancer is also facilitated by MR. Now, in addition to that, MR can have other spectrum of things like metabolic imaging or a physiological imaging, which can help. So when MR is recommended is a situation where there is a intermediate probability of disease, because low probability of disease, probably you don't need anything else except probably a serum PSA level and a digital rectal examination. For a very high level, you really don't need to go for staging those patients with MRI. You can go for a CT scan. So intermediate probability of disease, that is one, and where particularly the problem is between deciding stage 2 and stage T3, where the extracapsular spread in a very early stage may be there. So there is another situation where there is clinical suspicion of the disease, but the biopsy is negative. So you need to have some kind of additional test, and then a recurrent cancer, where the cancer can be masked by the post-radiotherapy changes and fibrosis and things like that. So if you look at the anatomy of the prostate, we'll find that the peripheral zone of the prostate appears extremely bright like this. Therefore, it becomes very easy to pick up cancers which most commonly arise in the prostate zone, peripheral zone of the prostate. In approximately 70% patients, they will be seen as dark areas in this white background. So, and this is the endorectal MR at 1.5 Tesla, which shows the anatomy of the prostate so well, with the hypertrophied transitional zone in the case of BPH, with prostate peripheral zone which is normal, and how the coronal anatomy, which shows the BPH, which is confined to the proximal part, proximal to the verumontanum, and the peripheral zone which extends right up to the apex of the gland. Now, straight away here, we can also discuss that the endorectal MR obviously gives rise to very good images like seen on the first panel. Okay, my arrow is causing problems. Right. So one can see this excellent depiction of anatomy on endorectal coil here and the coronal anatomy. But on the other hand, 3 Tesla, if you use a 3 Tesla unit, probably a body array, phased array body coil, external coil itself can give rise to excellent image like we see it here. And that's the coronal image, which are showing as much detail as the endorectal image. Now, whenever cancers come up, they appear dark. They replace the normal peripheral high intensity signal by this kind of low intensity, and then we know that it is a suspicious area. Like here, you see on the left side, on the right side, and then you see that it is involving both halves of the prostate gland, peripheral zone. Right, but it's not that easy because the sensitivity of MR is not very good on T2 weighted images, because if it says the disease is there, the chances are also there that it may go wrong in at least 20 to 30% patients. The reason being that chronic prostatitis, hemorrhage, chronic hemorrhage, and status post therapy like radiation, and sometimes dysplasias of the prostate like intraepithelial neoplasias, they can all look dark on imaging, and like in this case is a case of chronic prostatitis, biopsy proven, and it was suspicious of cancer initially. The other thing is simply we look at the T1 weighted image and confirm the hemorrhage in cases of post biopsy patients, and know that this is hemorrhage, but that hemorrhage may remain bright for a long time, up to 4 to 6 months in cases of prostate MR, because the prostate secretions do not allow the blood to clot or degrade that early. Now, so we come to this conclusion that T2 weighted images actually do not show everything, and the real issues still remain, and the issues are the sensitivity and specificity of conventional MR is low to fair, not very high. The central gland cancers are the other problems which may not be reliably detected. Then biological aggressiveness is not determinant of a cancer. T2 and T3 stage, which is crucial for management, is not adequately predicted on T2, and response to treatment, obviously we want to know that how the patient is responding to treatment. That becomes a problem sometimes on MR. And finally, the recurrence post-treatment is a nagging issue. These are the issues which are facing the conventional MR. So what we have now, the current trend is to think in a multi-parametric way so that we can apply more of a metabolic as well as physiological imaging, which can be incorporated with the conventional imaging to get into better kind of situation where you can have more diagnostic capability. Now you can do a spectroscopy where the high choline and low citrate will support the diagnosis of cancers, and then we have physiological imaging where a vascular milieu of the tumor, that is the angiogenesis, can be shown by dynamic contrast enhancement imaging, which will show early enhancement and washout and rate of peak enhancement. These are the characters of cancers. And then tissue information in terms of water diffusivity, that is diffusion weighted imaging, that also will help us in better detecting the tumors, as well as the diffusion weighted imaging, which will tell us about the water diffusivity. Now, if cancers replace normal glandular tissue, it becomes much more cellular with destruction of the glands. Therefore, the water diffusivity becomes less, and more cellularity gives rise to reduced diffusion of the water that can be picked up. So, we have potential for better imaging of prostate. So, what we can do is do a T2 axial coronal sagittal images along with a T1 axial, followed by a whole pelvis, which will be maybe a T1 flash or 3D wipe kind of situation where you can rule out the lymph nodes, and finally a sagittal of the spine to evaluate for any cancer deposits which frequently affect the lower lumbar spine. Then we go for a spectroscopy of suspicious areas, dynamic contrast enhancement, and diffusion weighted imaging. We will be of using 50, 400 or 800. Now we can vary between 800 to 1000, but we can't go more than that depending on the system that we have. So we'll just see some examples that we did in last few years. Here is a 78-year-old man with a PSA of 5.34 and suspicious digital rectal examination. Now it has a normal peripheral zone on T2 MR here. And then we do a ADC map on diffusion weighted imaging. And what we see is that the ADC which have been measured here is showing this value here, which is 1.87, and the other value is 1.54. And we thought this is a normal MR, and actually histopathologically it showed normal glandular tissue. This is part of a study that we were doing. So what is diffusion weighted imaging is you use balanced gradients in opposite directions to dephase and rephase moving protons which lose signal if they are moving. But if they are static, they don't lose signal and therefore they appear bright. That is a restricted diffusion. This is of help because cancerous tissue, because of cellularity, will have higher signal on diffusion weighted imaging and ADC. Now we use B values of 0, 50, 400, and depending on the system and your own preference, 800 to 1000. But usually the signal is low in diffusion weighted imaging. Therefore, we have to keep this particular thing in mind, whether we have enough SNR. The other way of looking at the prostate cancer will be a dynamic imaging, which is essentially based on a T1 based imaging system, not a T2 star based system which we do in the brain, which measures the micro vessel area, permeability, as well as extravascular seepage of the contrast, which produces T1 shortening. Now, immature vessels of the cancer will have leaky vessels, and they will be having a lot of contrast uptake, rapid washout, and deposition of contrast through the leaky capillaries into the surrounding tissues. So all these things can be measured by using DCEI, that is dynamic contrast enhanced imaging. Now it has the potential to detect cancers which are otherwise undetected and better show extracapsular spread as well as tumor recurrence. Of course, it also has a potential for showing the biological aggressiveness of tumors.